Welcome again to the Medical Terminology Podcast. This episode is Chapter 4, Part 2, Muscular System Anatomy. The muscular system is composed primarily of muscles. And do you remember the word part that refers to muscles? Well, that's myo, M-Y/O, although there are also some alternative words that are used from time to time. Now, there are three major types of muscle tissues that you need to be familiar with. The first type is the skeletal muscle. Skeletal muscles are also known as voluntary muscles because they make voluntary movement possible. These are the muscles we most commonly think of when we think of muscles. They're the muscles in the arms and the legs that allow us to move around. Now, a visible feature of skeletal muscles is that they are striated. S-T-R-I-A-T-E-D. This basically means that if you look at them, you see these lines going through them. Striation lines. Now, the second type of muscle is known as the smooth muscle. These are also known as involuntary muscles. These are the muscles that line vessels and also internal organs. They primarily are responsible for moving and controlling the flow of fluids inside the body. Now, smooth muscles are not striated. If you look at them, that you will not see the striation line. Now, the third type of muscle tissue is the myocardial muscle. That's M-Y-O-C-A-R-D-I-A-L. Myocardial means referring to the heart. So the myocardial muscle is basically the heart muscle. The interesting thing about the heart muscle is that it is involuntary. It pumps, it moves by itself. So it's like a smooth muscle in terms of its action. However, it's like a skeletal muscle in that it's striated in appearance. The muscle will have those striation lines. So the myocardial muscle is a special case, a third type of muscle. Now, in the textbook, it goes on and talks about the different ways that muscles are named. And these are found under the blue headings, and they attempt to categorize examples. And you will be responsible for knowing that information. You'll also be responsible for knowing the names of the muscles in the body. I'm not going to go over those with you in detail. It's going to be up to you to study those and know them. Now, I am going to review a couple other aspects of the muscular system anatomy as well as some word parts that are related to them. First of all, we have a term that's a general term that means pertaining to nerves and muscles. And that term is neuromuscular. N-E-U-R-O-M-U-S-C-U-L-A-R. And it's composed of the word parts neuro, musculo, and that suffix ar, meaning pertaining to. When we use the term neuromuscular, we mean anything pertaining to nerves and muscles. Now, another part of the muscular system anatomy, besides just the muscles, is the fascia. And we did talk about that last time when we were talking about word parts. First of all, do you remember the word part for fascia? Well, that's fascio, F-A-S-C-I/O. And do you remember what a fascia is? Well, fascia is a sheet of connective tissue that covers supports, and separates muscles or groups of muscles. And we have a related term called myofascial, MYOFASCIAL, and that's composed of the word parts myo, fascio, and the suffix -al. That term means pertaining to the muscle tissue and the fascia. So anytime you would use the term myofascio, you mean you're talking about a muscle and the fascia together. Now the final part of the muscular system is the tendon. Do you remember the word part for tendon? Well, the primary one is going to be teno, TEN/O, although again there are a couple of other ones that you may see. And do you remember what a tendon is? A tendon is a type of connective tissue that attaches muscle to bone. And again, it's important that you keep that separate in your mind from a ligament, which is part of the skeletal system. And a ligament connects bone to bone. Well, finally, the textbook talks about some specialists related to the muscular system. And I'd like to go over those with you briefly. First of all, we have a neurologist, NEUROLOGIST. Now, neurologist sounds like a specialist in the neurological system. Well, a neurologist is a specialist in the nervous system. However, a neurologist is also interested in muscular disorders that involve a loss of function and paralysis. Another specialist in the muscular system is a rheumatologist, RHEUMATOLOGIST. Now, in general, a rheumatologist is a specialist in inflammatory diseases, diseases that are caused by inflammation. These include diseases affecting the joints, like arthritis, diseases affecting connective tissues, and affecting the tendons, such as tendonitis. A third specialist in the muscular system is a physiatrist, PHYSIATRIST, physiatrist. Now, a physiatrist is a specialist in rehabilitative medicine. A physiatrist can help someone who's had some type of disorder that's caused some debilitation regain some of the lost function. So a physiatrist is a specialist in rehabilitation. Now, two more specialists are more, let's say, exercise related. One is an exercise physiologist, PHYSIOLOGIST is how we spell physiologist. And an exercise physiologist is someone who is an expert in exercise programs. They can also do certain tests of physical fitness. And then finally, we have a sports medicine doctor. And a sports medicine doctor would be someone who focuses exclusively on injuries related to sports. This would be someone who, say, a professional athlete would go see after some type of sports injury. Now we're going to do some practice. What is the type of muscular tissue that makes voluntary movement possible? Well, that's the skeletal muscle, skeletal muscle. And do you remember how skeletal muscles appear? Well, they appear striated, STRATED. Which type of muscle lines vessels or internal organs and moves or controls the motion of fluids? Those are the smooth muscles. And they're called smooth muscles because how do they appear? Well, they appear smooth, or in other words, they're not striated, as opposed to the skeletal muscles, which are striated. Also, we say that the smooth muscles are involuntary. That's as opposed to the skeletal muscles, which are what? Skeletal muscles are voluntary. Finally, which type of muscle is striated in appearance but is like a smooth muscle in action? Well, that third type is the myocardial muscle, otherwise known as the heart muscle. Well, what is the word part that refers to fascia? Well, that's fascio. And what is a fascia? Well, it's a sheet of connective tissue that covers, supports, separates, or groups of muscles. And what is the term that means pertaining to muscle tissue, or the fascia? That's myofascial. myofascial. What is the term for the connective tissue that attaches muscle to bone? Well, that's a tendon. Tendon. What is the term that means pertaining to nerves and muscles? Well, that's neuromuscular. Neuromuscular. And what is the term for a specialist in inflammatory diseases, particularly someone who might look at the joints, connective tissues, or tendons? Well, that's a rheumatologist. rheumatologist. And what is the term for a specialist in rehabilitative medicine? That's a physiatrist. Physiatrist. And what is the term for a specialist who would study muscular disorders involving loss of function and also paralysis? Well, that's a neurologist. Neurologist. And what is the name of an expert in designing exercise programs or performing medical tests to assess fitness? That's an exercise physiologist. Exercise, physiologist, Physiologist. And finally, if an athlete has an injury, what type of specialist might the athlete go see? Probably a specialist in sports medicine, a sports medicine physician. Okay, well, that reviews anatomy of the muscular system as well as specialists in the muscular system. This ends this episode of the Medical Terminology Podcast.